I wrote one of my best performing emails based off of a story about coconuts. So today we're going to talk about that story, and I wanted to share with you how that story is based in principles that I use when it comes to writing messaging, working on my launches, and also just in general when I talk to my clients around standing out in the space that's now full of AI slop and where trust is at a premium at this point. So it all started when I was craving a little sweet treat. And for those of you that don't know, I am based in Jamaica and we have fruit trees in our backyards. So I have a mango tree in my backyard. I was like, okay, I'm craving a little sweet treat. We'll go get a mango. Sis walks outside, looking up into the coconut tree, looking up in the mango tree, trying to find a mango, trying to find a ripe mango that I can go pick. Then I noticed the coconut tree because the coconut tree is right to the left in our backyard of the mango tree. Your girl notices the coconut tree. These coconuts look well old. Like say, all right, if they stay on the tree anymore, the water in them will ferment and it's not going to taste nice. That's not, I don't like fermenting coconut water. So I was like, okay, maybe we should take these down. My brother is outside with me. He sees the situation. We are having this conversation. He's like, sure, let's climb the tree, chop down the coconut them. And so we proceed to climb said tree. Well, he proceeds to climb said tree, pick coconuts, pass them down to me. So I'm gathering coconuts. And then we go get the machete or the machete, depending on how you pronounce that word. And here we are chopping open coconuts on our back step or back porch. And we spend the whole afternoon like this, like chopping open coconuts, eating out the jelly, drinking the water, just like gone, right? And I wrote the email about that experience because I was talking about the fact that so very often we have one core intention within our launches, especially doing doors open. We're trying to address the core things that our people need to know in order to make the decision that they need to make, whether that is a yes for our offers or it's a no, right? And so we often get into these situations where we have the core objections and ideas in our brains, but we start writing and something else sounds really good. Or we think we know, but we don't quite know, and we get off track, but we don't quite realize, and then our launches don't do as well as we want them to do, especially when we have like a lot of people cheering for us. We have a very engaged audience. We have people who are leaning in, they're wanting to hear what we have to say, but then there's crickets in the launch, or sales are sluggish and not where you expect them to be. What can very easily happen is that you accidentally went on a side quest that you didn't realize. Prime example, me going outside for a mango on the mango tree, ending up spending the whole afternoon chopping coconuts, right? Very pleasurable for me, but crickets in your launches, not so great for y'all. And so what can bring us back and help us to not meander and run all over the place on all of these side quests is our offer promise. That was the email that I wrote. And I kind of talked about what the offer promise is and the 3 elements of it and how it works, right? So at this point, I'm like, cool, fun story, thoroughly enjoyed the afternoon. I love coconuts, y'all. So yes, I mean, literally the irony of today's video is that earlier this afternoon, that's exactly what I was doing. My dad was chopping coconuts on the back step, and I was like taking out all the meat, pouring out the water. My mom and I were in the kitchen taking care of that. So love coconuts. And this was a very Chelsea story. I've never seen anybody else talk about coconuts in that email. But again, I was just like, all right, cool. It links to this concept. It's a side quest idea of parallel principles, right? Translating this like in real life story and turning it into a sort of analogy for what we do in our launches and addressing that issue and what we can do to fix it. So simple email, sent that out. My gosh, all the replies, bro. All the people hitting up my inbox telling me how much they love the story, how much they appreciated, like they could visualize me climbing the coconut tree. Mind you, I never claimed to climb any coconut tree because no, Chelsea's not the one, right? I mean, maybe with a ladder, but I'm not like the people who used to just climbing the tree bare hands, bare feet. No, not your girl. Me a bush girl, but me not reach them levels yet. Yeah. So it was just so fascinating to me to have to see how a story about my life and me just randomly doing this one afternoon, like snowballed. Not the right climate, not the right context, but we'll use the idea. Completely snowballed into such an outpouring of response from my people and actually getting them to talk to me. And if you've ever been around me for any length of time, you know that I firmly believe anything that you can do to get your people to talk back to you is it, bro. That's where you want to be. That's what you want to be doing. Getting your people to talk back to you, right? And when I did that, it reinforced something that I knew that I use in my business all the time and that I really preach to my clients when we are working on their messaging, when we are writing their emails. And it's the power of your day-to-day life, your day-to-day stories, and how those become hooks, positioning angles, analogies, metaphors, things that you can use to enter into your core ideas, your core principles, your frameworks, your resources, your core topics for your people. Because literally anything can be a story. And I know you may have heard that said before, but literally anything can be a story. Like yesterday, I went to church and I had the kids in my Sunday school class asking me all kinds of, I mean, out there. They already ask out their questions. They're preteens, y'all, so they're like 10 to 12. They already ask the wildest questions at that age in general. But I will go on a Sunday morning and they'll ask me about the Iran war. And they'll ask me about things in the Bible. And they'll ask me about space. And just really wild out there questions. I could pull that story from my life and write a story, write an email, do a video on that topic. And I might say something along the lines of, maybe I talk about how sometimes our people have tangential questions that don't seem connected, but they are revealing to us their thought processes by asking those questions. They're showing us that, hey, in my mind, this thing that you don't think is an issue is actually an issue. And so I'm asking this question because to me, these two things are connected and I need to solve this over here before I solve this. And in the context of, for example, an objection, you might never have heard of this thing before. You might never have connected this thing over here with this thing. And sometimes it seems like our people are asking questions that we're like, where is this coming from? I never would have thought of this. Yeah, because you're like this to your own stuff. And so you miss it. And so let the questions that people ask you become the objections that you then address to help them make their decision when it comes to your doors open period in your launch. That's an email, y'all. That's a social post. That's a video, right? Like I literally just took a random scenario from my life, and I would probably in the email or in the video or whatever I was doing, go into more detail about it, right? Like actually show the kid asking me the question, how I felt in the moment, the answer I gave, and reflecting on it later, what it kind of indicated to me, right? When it comes to launching. Same principle. We are able to do that with any little thing in our lives, anything at all. And I say that because now more than ever, your buyers, your clients, your students, your potential people need to know your vibe, like how you are, what it's like to get to know you, what kind of life you live, your values, what things are priority for you, what does integrity look like to you, how do you make your decisions in your business, and your perspectives, right? Like, what do you think about this thing in the industry? What do you think about that thing in the industry? Now more than ever, your people need to know that, because expertise is becoming less and less like the deciding factor. Why? Because expertise is freely available. Anybody can claim expertise. And usually these days, the people who claim expertise, they're not as horrible as they used to be, because AI has closed that gap. So even when content is like AI slop, the slop isn't like horrible. It isn't like real crap. It's just mid crap, you know? So it's like, it'll give you a half right answer, but put it in the wrong context, or it will give you a half good idea that still needs a lot of work, but it was better than if like somebody who had no expertise at all came up with something, right? And so it's very easy for anybody in this online education space, in the world that we now live in, with the advancement that we now have, to grab a hold of and get access to expertise. It's a lot harder for people to find people that they can trust, people that they vibe with, people whose perspectives and values they share, people whose perspectives make them think differently, right? That expose them to a new way of seeing an XYZ particular issue that makes them go, I didn't realize that. I appreciate that. You made me think. Let me follow you. Let me hear what else you got to say. What are you selling? How can you help me? Those are the kinds of responses that we want. But we're not going to get them if we just lean on expertise alone. And so when I am doing my messaging roadmap for my clients, when I'm mapping out their messaging, email by email, post by post, when we're looking at whatever launch event they're going to be including, whether that is a masterclass, a challenge, whatever that's going to look like, private podcast, etc., all of those questions that we're answering, we are specifically answering them through stories, through analogies, through metaphors, through perspectives and ideas, through concepts, through frameworks, but in a really real life relatable way that showcases who they are, not just what this product is and what it can do. Because we've got to go beyond that. We're past that point now. We need to figure out how every single thing in our lives has potential to be a hook, to be a story that we share. And then from there say, okay, which ones will I talk about? Which ones won't I? Which ones will best serve my goals, the directions in which I'm going, which ones will best serve this launch, etc., etc., etc. But we need to recognize that like going to all of the old stories that we've used, going to just talking about expertise is not enough anymore. And when it comes to standing out in the age of AI, when it comes to really thinking about how you differentiate yourself from the people around you and from your rivals in business, right, who offer similar things to you, and or from people whose offers your audience is actively considering over your own. This is what makes the difference, bro. Because think about it. If they have over time listened to you and to somebody else, and they have built deep fascination with your work, but they also kind of ish like the other person, and the other person comes out with an offer and you come out with an offer that's kind of ish similar, and they look at both of you and they're like, yeah, I follow both of them and their offers kind of sound the same to me. How do I how do I decide? Who do you think they're going to go with? The one they're fascinated by, the one they're drawn in by, the one they're intrigued by, the one who they vibe with, the one whose perspectives they are always like, this is cool. I never realized this. Or the other person who just kind of sounds generic, doesn't share about their life, doesn't share their story, doesn't share who they are, doesn't share moments from their life, doesn't come up with really creative, engaging, fascinating hooks, ideas, perspectives, etc. Who do you think they're going to go with? I know who I go with. From my own experience as a buyer, I know who I go with. And so for me and my clients, we cannot be slacking when it comes to this stuff. And I'm encouraging you not to do that either. Because here's the thing too. When you do this work, it builds that foundation of trust. So even when somebody else comes out with a similar offer, offering similar things, or maybe even offering what seems like more, right? Maybe more resources, maybe more GPTs, more AI tools, more like whatever it is, more one-on-one coaching, whatever that looks like, right? But the person wants to be in your world. They want to crawl in your brain. They want to understand your frameworks, your processes. They want to hear more about your story and your life. Bruh, that trust, that only comes from putting in the reps of doing this. That only comes over time, really sharing and openly sharing, and not just like teaching your concepts and your ideas, but like your like stories, hooks, analogies, metaphors, right? Really interesting perspectives that come out of private discussions that you have with your biz besties and your clients, right? That's where it comes from. And when we think about our own personal response to things like the trust recession in online education, we like, and in this course creation, coaching, online space, we really have to see this kind of work as the antithesis of that trust recession. This is how we build that trust back within our audiences. Is we share our stories. We share them as hooks, we share them as entry points, we share them as perspective flips, we share them in a way that creates that deep fascination, connection with our people, that then when the time comes to purchase something and they're in a position where they feel like, yes, this meets my need, but I'm deciding between you and you, they're going to go with the one they trust, because in the back of their minds, they're like, she's not going to scam me. She's not going to take my money and ghost, because she hasn't ghosted all this dang time. And all the people who've worked with her got the results. And she's been around. Like, I've been listening to her for 6 months, 8 months, 2 years, 5 years, right? Like, I know she is not the type to cut and run, take my money and leave me high and dry, right? This is how we respond to things like the trust recession, is we share openly, honestly. Not saying that you have to share everything, right? But looking at when it comes to the moments where you decide, okay, it's time to write content or it's time to launch, we're looking at the messaging roadmap. Your whole life is available as story hooks, as positioning angles, as metaphors, as analogies, as like principal idea transfers, right? With the coconut email, the idea of like the principle of a side quest versus side quest in a launch, like transferring the same principle, right? You can do that with nearly anything. You don't have to stick with your expertise. You don't have to stick with how-tos. You don't have to stick with like transformation stories. It's more than that. You have so much more available to you than that. And it sets your launches up and it sets your evergreen funnels up for success, because they have not heard these stories anywhere else. And the stories that you're telling are clicking to them, like they're getting it. Because here's the thing too, right? Like, here's the powerful thing about this, or one of the most powerful things out of all the other things that I've said in the video so far. One of the most powerful things about this is that the stories you share will attract people who resonate with you and will repel the people who actually don't want to hear about that at all. So me talking about my life in Jamaica and coconut and mango trees in my backyard, some people ain't going business. Some people are going to be like, ma'am, that's not what I'm here for. You are not my vibe. Let me exit stage left. And they will exit stage left and move on, right? And that will be the end of that. But for other people, they're like, I like this girl. I like your vibe. You know how many people have told me that they like my vibe? And I don't say that to boast. I say that because there's something about showing up, sharing your stories, sharing yourself, right? Even like showing up on camera. As much as like it's a bit of a hurdle for me to do every day, like there's something about being this present and sharing these stories in this way and connecting them back to the problems that your audience is trying to solve in the context of a launch or an evergreen funnel, and even outside of that context on a regular content basis, that creates that magnetism, that fascination, that just like flywheels and compounds over time. And when you are ready to open doors to your thing, you have given your audience multiple reasons to say yes. It's not just the offer. It's not just the bonuses. It's not just the urgency. It's also because I like her, because I trust her, because I want to climb into her brain and understand how she thinks, because I want to get her frameworks, because I want to be in her world and learn from her, because I want to absorb the things that she says and like intuitively start to integrate that into my own processes and frameworks and output that in my business. Because your people say yes for a variety of reasons. And if you can give them as many reasons as possible to say yes, bruh, that's where we want to be. That's what we want to do. So I strongly encourage you, as I do with all of my clients, you can go back and watch the messaging roadmap videos that I talked about. I think I talked about it in the last video, how I like structure my messaging roadmap. But that informs the story hooks, the ideas, the things that you share, the metaphors, the analogies, etc. that you share. But bottom line, any and everything in your launch, in your life, in your business, in your relationships, all of it can be a hook, a story angle that you share. You will get to decide how much you share and which parts of your life you share. Like, I don't share everything when I share. Like, there are parts of me that the internet still has not seen and or known, right? But the fact that I've shared some parts of me, and the fact that I have a track record that people can trust, and I do that over time, and I'm getting better at doing that, and I'm putting in the reps at doing that, and my clients do the same thing. My best performing clients, my clients who lock in all of their 6-figure launches, are the clients who've been doing this over time. So this is my invitation to you. Lock in those stories from your life, boo-boo. Don't put them to waste. Put them to work. Yeah? Because they will work for you. In the age of AI slop, in the age of the trust recession in online education and online business, in coaching and course creation, in micro tool era, these things will work for you 100%. Yeah, cool. If you have any questions about how to do this, if you would like help to do this, and extract stories from your life for the next, let's say, quarter, just because I can. If you want to talk to me about your launches, your evergreen funnels, anything like that, I do have my consultation hour that is 50% off from now until May 8th. So you can grab a spot if you so choose. And until next time, we'll talk soon.